have been a third grade teacher for about 15 years. By now, I thought I had become used to anything and everything that kids could pull. Times change, but kids don't. One of the assignments in my class is to have a week or two where my students bring in reports of their parents and their jobs. For 5 minutes or so, the students take turns and stand in front of the class to talk a little bit about their parents and what they do for a living. You get your fill of doctors, lawyers, police officers, accountants, and even the occasional homemaker. Of course, since there are always students who like to exaggerate what their parents do, this can be quite entertaining. Most of the time, you can tell that they have no clue about what their parents' actual jobs involve, but they have the rest of their lives to learn about that. We were about halfway through the exercise when Hunter began to give his report. He went through his mum's job. Everything was normal, nothing out of the ordinary there. But then he started talking about his dad. "My dad is a really cool guy," he began, squinting to read what he wrote. "He works as a lawyer. This is a really cool job where you get to do things like go to court and argue with another lawyer in a big room in front of some guy in black. His office is the coolest, super big and with awesome chairs and a lot of books. Sometimes, if I'm really lucky, he lets me carry his briefcase." Hunter struggled a little pronouncing the final word, but he figured it out. "But he also told me that he has a secret job." At this point, the whole class began to whisper amongst themselves excitedly. I, on the other hand, was rather puzzled. Was this a stunt, or some daydream? "At night, my dad has to sneak out of the house. I didn't know about this for a long time, but when I did, he told me my mum and my sister Jane both knew and were okay with it. Once everyone in the family is asleep, my dad goes out and fights bad guys." This finally made sense. It was the whole "my dad is a secret superhero" daydream. You'd be surprised how many kids try to pull this. Hunter admired his dad. I knew that well enough. "My dad always has to take care that no one sees him, because he told me if they did, the bad guys would come and get him. But my dad's awesome. Not once have the bad guys caught him." Now, the other kids in the class began to full-on scream and yell in excitement. "All right, quieten down," I instructed them firmly. "Go ahead, Hunter." Best to get this over with. Hunter did always have a fantastic imagination. "Yeah, my dad does this secret job because he says it needs to be done. He told me that sometimes people did bad things and need to pay for what they did. He always brings the coolest things home after too. Gold things, silver things, things that look real expensive. Sometimes he comes home with lots of money too, but he always has something to do with them. Otherwise, people will try and take them away from him. My dad is always so nice." He said this with the wildest smile. Unfortunately, he wasn't quite done yet though. "One time, I saw him come home just before it got light out, and his truck had some big sheet in the back seat that got red all over it. When I asked him about it, Dad told me that he had to take care of a bad guy and then move him so that he couldn't hurt anyone else. He then told me if I went inside and did my homework, he'd take me out for ice cream, which he did. I got cookie dough, my favorite." Holy shit, this daydream is crazy. Hunter's favorite ice cream really was cookie dough. Or was it an actual dream he had? I began to feel uneasy. Either way, this couldn't be real. Sadly enough, I have heard of kids' daydreams far more insane than this one. Thankfully, Hunter was almost done. "The last time I saw him come home at night was a few days ago. I saw him playing in the backyard like he was digging in the sandbox. I saw him put something big wrapped in what seemed like red sheets in the hole, and then he covered it with dirt. When I asked him what it was, he said it was the bad pirate's treasure, and he was going to give it back to the people he stole it from as soon as he could. And then he told me to go back inside and watch TV. And I did, but when I got inside, I looked out the window and I saw that he started a big fire outside. My dad is the best at building fires too. Sometimes he has to use clothes that don't belong to any of us too. Dad always says that they're the best to start a good fire with. Sometimes they also look like the big sheet I saw from the back seat too. I felt like I'd just been punched in the stomach at this point. What the fuck was going on? There was no way that Hunter was making this up. This shit was real. So yeah, that's what my parents do, he finished excitedly. The other students seemed to think that it was as cool as what Hunter said. All right, class, give Hunter a round of applause, I said hastily. They did as I asked. The rest of the students took their turn for the period, and then class was dismissed for the day. Once class was let out and the other students were gone, Hunter came up to my desk with an eager look on his face. Hi, Mum. Did I do good on my project about what you and Dad do? He asked, happily. You did great, sweetie, I told Hunter as I ruffled his hair fondly, doing everything that I could to act normal in front of him. You ready to go home? He nodded excitedly. I grabbed my bag and followed him out of the classroom, locking it behind me. My mind was spinning as I walked with my son across the parking lot. What the hell? Hunter was an incredibly smart kid, and an honest one at that. I must confess that for a while now, I've thought that his dad was up to something. He had been very withdrawn for a few weeks. My husband, Hunter's dad, is usually a very upbeat guy, so when something is up, you can tell. He would go to his office and sit in silence for a while. I know that he had been frustrated at work, so I just chalked it up to that. Since it stopped after a relatively short time, I didn't think anything of it. For a brief moment, I wondered if he was having an affair. Funny, now I wish that was all I was worried about him doing. As Hunter got into the passenger seat and buckled in, I put the car in gear and took off down the road. One of the benefits of driving a car is that it gives you time to think. Focusing on the road is an amazing time to reflect on whatever is on your mind. Hunter's report was being played endlessly in my mind. The most troubling part being the pirate treasure buried in the backyard. Fortunately, Hunter was playing on my phone as we drove home. The drive home, though, seemed to take no time at all. Looking up at my house, I didn't know what to think. I loved our house, a beautiful white colonial with black shutters. Parking in my driveway, I decided what I would do about Kyle and my husband. As I unlocked the door, Hunter ran inside with his backpack, tossing it on the bench in the hallway as he usually did on the way up to his room. I couldn't blame him. One of the happiest feelings when you're a kid is the moment you get home from school. It never really goes away when you're an adult too, does it? You just substitute work for school, right? Hey guys, how was your day? Kyle walked up with a smile on his face. I almost froze when he did. One of the worst things about getting dirt, gossip, or inside info is that it forces you to rethink everything you believe about someone. Yeah, good, I added, politely. His face fell slightly at my cool answer. I had decided to not out and out accuse him of what was in Hunter's report. Know why? Because if he really was a murdering lunatic, the last thing I wanted to do was to make him feel cornered. I was going with a tried and true method to get information out of someone voluntarily first, make them feel as uncomfortable and nervous as possible, so they inadvertently blurt out something that they think you know, but don't. If he wasn't sure of what I knew, there was no telling what secrets he would blurt out in an attempt to find out why I wasn't happy. It's basically the equivalent of saying to someone, I know what you did, so they feel free to talk about it with you. Hey, is something wrong, babe? He asked, stopping abruptly as he walked towards me. Nothing, I'm fine. I'm just a little tired is all, I said with a smile, extending my cheek towards him for a kiss. He obliged, but he still looked unconvinced. Good.
How was your day? Fine. How was yours?
No reason to panic. I was just fishing for information at this point. Or at least that was what I was telling myself.
Yeah, good. The Simons meeting went well.
He looked incredibly pleased.
Good. I know you've been working really hard on it. How about we celebrate tonight with pizza? I don't feel like cooking.
A stupid question, really. Like most people, my husband will always say yes to pizza. He's not the only one who can use a favorite food as a distraction.
Like I would ever say no. How about Giorgio's?
Now, Kyle looked truly happy.
You know it. Order and pick it up for us?
Our regular order consisted of 2 large pizzas, pepperoni for the kids and green and peppers and black olives for Kyle and me, plus an order of cheese bread.
Yeah, will do. I'll get right on it.
He agreed as he took his phone out of his pocket and promptly dialed George's while walking into the kitchen. I heard him place the order, then promptly walk back out into the living room where I had settled on the couch.
It'll be ready in 30 minutes. I'm heading out now to get it.
He called out as he walked towards the front door.
Okay, see you later.
The door closed shut behind him. I took care of a few things that I'd been thinking of on the ride back home, school stuff and whatnot. When this was done, and after making sure that Hunter was in his room watching TV, I went downstairs into Kyle's office. I went through all his desk drawers, nothing out of the ordinary there, and then I went to the garage, the same story there. Finally, I went to the backyard, the place where the pirate's treasure allegedly was. I stared at the ground for a while, trying to figure out where Hunter said that my husband had been digging. Since it had been raining a lot recently, the grass was very lush and green. No spot looked recently disturbed, so it was hard to say. It was at that moment that I heard the sound of Kyle's car coming up the driveway, so I hastily walked back inside the house through the porch.
Pizza's here,
he called out as Hunter ran down the stairs excitedly. Our older daughter, Jane, was at a friend's house for the weekend since it was Friday night. There is nothing quite like the smell of a hot pizza. We got the plates out and sat down at the table. We all dug right in. I may have just been paranoid, but I made sure Kyle ate a slice of pizza before I did. But apparently my husband had no problem chowing down. We all ate quietly, little bits of ordinary conversation breaking the silence. After dinner, Hunter returned to his room and I cleaned up the dining room.
Hey, do you want to watch a movie?
Kyle asked.
Sure. Oh, by the way, Hunter did a great job on his project on us.
I added as an afterthought.
Oh yeah?
He looked pleased by this.
Yeah, despite his including of some fantasy that he had about you having a secret job.
I managed to pretend chuckle at this. Kyle, on the other hand, stood quietly on the spot, with a neutral expression on his face.
That boy has some imagination.
He was pretending it was a joke, but his smile was way too wide. It was stretched tightly over his face. The look didn't suit him.
I know, right? He claimed you were a secret superhero who goes out at night and fights bad guys. Crazy, right?
I was impressed at how I managed to pretend that I thought it was all a joke.
Yeah.
He began chuckling too, but it wasn't his usual laugh. It was a nervous, oh shit laugh.
I wonder where he got that idea though, especially since he claimed that you told me and Jane about it and swore us to secrecy. It's a mystery.
My husband was doing a pretty good job acting like he wasn't on edge. He was a good lawyer after all, but I know him. He was tense. The pursed lips are a giveaway every time.
Yeah, anyway, so what movie do you want to watch?
At that moment, I felt sickened. Hunter's story was true, or at least part of it was. I've known that he has had some shady clients in the past, People you wouldn't want to be seen in public with and shake their hand type clients. But I always told myself, what lawyer hasn't? Well, most lawyers don't have suspicious jewelry, burnt clothes in the backyard, and buried bloody sheets in the backyard. What the fuck did he get into at work this time? That had to be it. Of course. I used my teacher-honed abilities to act and to pretend that I brushed it all off.
Hey, how about The Wolf of Wall Street?
It was a good choice. I did have a soft spot for Scorsese, and we both had yet to see that one. He also looked happy and surprised that I dropped the matter so easily.
Sure. Do you want me to go get it from Redbox?
The nearest Redbox to us is 5 minutes away at the drugstore. I love that thing. It's the closest you get to a genuine video store anymore. Don't get me wrong, I like Netflix, but it's just not the same experience as a video store used to be.
If you don't mind. Sure, I'll be back in a few. Hey, I love you, Vanessa.
He got back with the movie in what seemed like no time at all. Honestly, a part of me was expecting him to run and never come back. But we watched the movie and it was actually quite terrific. I didn't mention anything about Hunter's project for the rest of the night after that. But one last update for you all is that right before we went to bed, I mentioned a new project.
Hey babe, how about we think about putting in a swimming pool for the kids? And not one of those cheap things, but a real one. We could hire a pro to come and work on the yard and install it for summer.
I could practically feel him thinking on the couch beside me before he answered.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
And that was all he said about my suggestion. After a few more minutes of watching the news, he went upstairs to go to bed. I'm just about to go to sleep myself, but I have one last idea. I thought of a last place that he could be hiding something here. The attic. No one ever goes up there but him. We also keep the lock so that Hunter can't go inside and hurt himself. Or at least, that's what I always thought.